What I had to relearn is on the electric boxes when we're putting them in on our studs, there's a little ridge, and I used to put that ridge flush to the 2x4, and that ridge only sticks out like 3/8 and not half an inch. So I learned that you have to push that electric box out a little bit further and check it by using a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, because I used to just hold it to that ridge, and that's why my boxes were sunk in.
Drilling into the 4x4s a little too high or a little too low begins to break the integrity of the 4x4. So that was something to relearn.
I think it was cool that if you start drilling your holes before you sheathe, you can angle that long spider bit from the outside of the house and go up and in, and just go one shot through your glulam to feed your wires through it versus having to meet them. So that was something that I wish I've known prior builds.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. That was a pretty cool trick that we were taught today. It saves a lot of time and a lot of stressful moments where you're trying to dig into 5-inch area with your hand and the drill, and it's just a lot better to go from the outside and get her done. So I had him start drilling holes for the electrical, but I forgot to tell him that we weren't going to drill through the 4x4 because I had forgotten, and instead we were going through the ceiling, which I forgot to tell him. And so by drilling into the 4x4, we actually, it's okay, because we do have 2 studs pancaking it, but you are kind of breaking the integrity, especially when it's at the top. So you want to be careful of that and make sure you just go through the ceiling if you have to. It's a lot easier that way as well because your cables can run a lot more freer.
Probably just check and make sure you know what you're doing before you do it, or else you're going to end up having to take blocking out if it's at the wrong height, or it's just a lot of backtracking that you can avoid if you double check and you know what you're doing.
Double check your layout as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
I just caught one stud out of place and they were just missing one, but double check your layout before you start going into the inside of the house and framing that in. Yes, 16s on center on the outsides. I don't know what they were on the insides. They framed the inside. But yeah, 16s on centers on the outside, making sure that all your studs are there. And that just kind of goes for your sheeting, when you go to sheet the house and you think you have a stud there and you shoot it in and you might have cable there. Well, now your cable is broken and, it's just a mess. So making sure that all your studs are in place and 16s on center.
Probably the big thing that stood out to me today was being able to drill through the glulam from the outside, because it is a pain drilling up and trying to meet your hole. So it's easy if you can just go one, and you can just bang them out if you need a few. It's just super easy. So today we're going to need a nail gun to put in our blocking and nailers and finish off our framing. We're going to need our hammer and nail puller for our electric boxes. We're also going to need our drill, a 1-inch spade bit, a hole dozer, and a 7/8 spider bit, and those are all for drilling holes for electric. You can also use your 1-inch spade bit and your 3-inch or 2 1/4 inch hole saw. That's for our plumbing coming up to our last interior wall we have to frame. And you also need your impact with the Phillips head to hang your ceiling fan box. So today we're going to start putting in our blocking for our shower, and we also need to put nailers and blocking in for our drywall up along the edge of the butt wall glulams, and everywhere a wall hits where if you screw up a piece of sheetrock, the edge of it won't meet an I-joist or a piece of blocking like this. If our sheetrock were to end, it wouldn't hit an I-joist, so we're going to need to put a 2x4 hanging over to give us something to screw up to. So that's what we're doing today. We're just going to go around putting in our blocking and our nailers. It should take a little bit, but not too long. So this is an example of one of the nailers we're going to put up. It's just a piece of 2x4. You throw nails into the top, and it hangs over to give us something to screw up through when we start hanging our drywall. And you put one of these when the distance between the next eye joist and your interior wall is too much. But on this side, we wouldn't need one because it's only like a 3-inch gap, and that's close enough. We're also gonna need a nailer on this 2x6 wall on both sides because it's bigger than the eye joist, so both sides hang over.
Just make it easier on yourself.
So right now I'm putting in my blocking against my glulam to give us something when we put our sheetrock, we have something to screw up into. It's the same thing as last builds, just 2 on each butt wall that run all the way across. So other than that, there's really nothing new. Just making sure it's level, so when you put your sheetrock up, you can't see a visible bow in the drywall after you paint it. But you know, I like to see is you can see the 2x4s where they're stacked, so you can kind of see right here, you know, how far down you are. So I'm about 1/2 inch down on that. So then you know how bad your wood's warped if you come here and you see your 2x4 hanging way down, or maybe it's above that line. But if it's about right where it is, then that's fine. Just nothing too big to where you could see it when you finish painting. But I'm throwing some nails in right now, just so I have something to sit my 2x4 on when I go to nail it. Is this my piece?
Probably.
Yeah. Just when you don't have someone else to help you hold it up, you can throw some nails up there and they can hold it up for you. When you go to put your blocking up on your butt walls, you want to make sure that you get almost a perfect straight 2x4, because I got one that was a little bit bent and I thought I'd be able to throw nails in and bend it, but it just made it so much harder because once you throw a nail in here, it's in there. Especially with this like 6-inch gap, there's really no way of getting it out. So I had to take a sledgehammer up over the eye joist and start tapping it down, and it probably took like 20 minutes when it should have taken 2. So another thing is to make sure that this is level with at least your second eye joist sticking out, because it might be flush with this eye joist, but you want to make sure it's flush all the way across. So you just take a straight piece of wood, it could be a scrap wood, a piece of trim, a 2x4, and you want to run it against 2 eye joists, and then you can tell if it's flush at the end. That looks pretty good. You just don't want a huge gap like this. But yeah, that looks pretty good. Well, I cut out that piece of blocking up there because we're actually going to have another wall. We're going to have another wall right here to hide this piping and to house all the plumbing for our washer dryer. So we need a vent through roof right here. But if we had a piece of blocking, there wouldn't be enough space between the 2 walls. So we just had to cut that out. So you guys can choose to cut it out like this or just do 2 separate pieces. If I knew, I probably would have done 2 separate pieces because it's kind of a pain cutting it, but it doesn't take too much time. It was a little bit too big, especially with interior walls. Corey was saying make sure to take 1/8 off each side because it's okay if it has a little wiggle room. And we also forgot to drill our holes in the bottom plate because the bottom plate's going to sit over all this plumbing and butt up to the exterior wall. So we're going to do that right now. But yeah, I just say make sure that you give yourself some wiggle room because that was a problem we were having. It was just too tight, and it was pushing our closet door frame and our shower frame out a little bit instead of keeping them nice and plumb. So you don't want to do that because then it throws off all your measurements. So just make sure you're exact. So with this middle stud, we're going to put it in after we have the wall frame, just so we have room to drill out all of our holes. And so we're just going to frame the box, drill our holes, put it in, and then we'll figure out a place to put the middle stud. So right now we're cutting out our holes for our bottom plate. So this wall is going to house all of our plumbing for our washer and dryer. And it's just going to be butt up right next to this wall, the exterior wall. So what I did to get these measurements is I cut my bottom plate. I set it where it's supposed to go. Then I took a tape measure. I measured to the center of each of these, drew a line, and then I came from the bottom plate of our exterior wall, took a tape measure, measured the center of each. Then I drew an X. And I used a 1-inch spade bit for these holes because this is 3/4 pecs, so it has a little wiggle room. And a 3-inch hole dozer for this hole because this is 2 1/4, so it gives some play. And this doesn't really matter structurally because it's just going to be nailed into the exterior wall and into the subfloor. So it's okay if you only have a 1/4 inch on each side because it's just there to hold your studs, not to bear any weight.
How's that going in?
Right now it's pretty good. I'm just slowly working it down. But I think we're gonna need those little butterfly clips for the pecs.
We're about to start drilling through our glulam for our electrical. This is our starting point, and then we're going to run it to our left over here. Drill down through the glulam as well, then go back down to the sides, through the door. And I got to drill about 5 other holes through the glulam, so there's going to be a lot of drilling through the glulam in just a second here. We've got to get the drills and everything. And yeah, make sure, get it nice and straight, and then everything should be good.
What goes into making sure that it comes out nice and straight? Is it all about leveling, or?
Keeping that hand straight. If you don't have the strength for it, then I would definitely use a level. Make sure that you keep straight. Yeah, that's how I would try to stay level. Just keeping, try to stay as straight as you can.
So before you put the wall to house the plumbing for the washer and dryer, you should drill the holes up through the glulam before, because if you throw that wall up and you forget, then you're just going to have to angle your bit even steeper to get over that 2x4. Versus if it's already done, you can get that nice angle going in and out of the glulam without a sharp turn, so it'll just be easier to feed your wires through. I'm drilling holes for our electric right now, but when you get to a big piece like this, where you have a few 2x4 sistered and your 4x4, we should use one of these, either a flex or a Milwaukee drill and a long drill bit, because a Craftsman and a spade bit just isn't going to have enough power and torque to get through all of that. And it's easier to just go one shot than try to meet your spade bits in the middle, because that's really hard to do. And then you have a solid hole, because if you meet spade bits, sometimes you create a little bit of a lip. So when you're pushing your wire through, it'll catch that lip, and it'll be super hard to push it through.
So what we're gonna do is, or what
what I had them do is we ran the drill bit from the outside of the house and ran up at an angle. So this is your drywall line where your drywall is going to sit. So he had the right angle where he came through the beam up here, and he only had to do one hole. So now your wire is going to be up nice and high above your drywall, so you know that's not going to interfere. The only thing is on the back side, before you run your sheet or your shear wall, you're going to have to put a bang plate just to help protect those wires, because we did move the hole to the further or the back side of the wall. So now this will give you a nice easy drop through with your wire.
So anytime we have pecs running through a wall, through a 2x4, up through the ground through a 2x4, we're going to need these clamps on it, and this just protects it from like when the house shakes and shifts, and when water gets pressurized, the pecs will vibrate, and it just protects the pecs from the hard edge of the wood. So it keeps like any cutting or any splinters from getting into it. So to put these on, I used a 1-inch spade bit, and I really had to ream it out a lot because we really need a hole that's about 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 to be able to fit these on. And I'm just going to fasten them down with some drywall screws. It worked pretty well last time, so I think it'll be easier than trying to nail it. That went pretty smooth. It's a lot easier trying to throw screws in softer wood like 2x4s or 2x6s than this laminated OBS, so they sunk in.
So if you remember on your last build, we had a lot of switches that were mixed up. A lot of people put their switch leg wires, dropped them into the box, but they didn't put them in the right spot. So doing this layout, if you lay it out this way, we'll be able to tell you or be able to show you which switch is doing what. So when we go to make up the box, we're not guessing which wire is what. So this is going to help you with your switch legs when you pull them. You have your hall light, your outside light, and then your bedroom fan. So now you know when you're pulling that switch leg what position they should go into. And this will help clarify a lot of the mixed up wires at the end when we start making up boxes. So if you guys crimp them to the ones you guys do, your number 1, number 2, number 3, you can look down and see which switch leg that you're pulling and be able to land them in the right positions. So it's kind of critical to, when you do your layout and you write your stuff on, your switch legs and your layouts on the bottom, write your layout so you know what switch is doing what. And this will help you guys not get so confused at the end. Let's look into the bathroom here. So we did have on the bathroom. So when you enter the room, if you look on your plans, the light switches are backwards. When you enter your room, you always want your first switch that you can reach to be your main light, and then your fan. So on the plans, they show the fan first and then the light second. That's backwards. So you want to be able to reach that first switch and turn the light on. You don't want to turn on the fan or reach across that fan switch to turn on your light. So we corrected that. We swapped them. So your light should be first and then your fan second. We did go and just lay out all the outlets. So we wrote them on red, kind of wrote them big. So there was a few outlets that were missed. I like to write them in the keel, just because after drywall and stuff, you can still kind of scrape the floor, and we'll be able to tell. If you write them with a black permanent marker, it kind of gets buried, and that's how I think some of the outlets are getting buried behind drywall and stuff, because people aren't realizing that there should be an outlet there. So with the big symbol down on the floor, you'll be able to see that. And then hopefully you can correct your mistake if you bury it.
Hey, yeah. Are you passing the battery on the gun?
So yeah, so even on your fans and your lights, you want to write them on the ground as well, because every time you walk by, you're going to see it, and it's going to be a constant reminder of what needs to be there or what should be there. Even on your outside GFIs here, I had them mark on the studs as well, stub out for your GFI. So every time you walk by, you're going to be reminded that there needs to be a GFI here. So you're going to spend a couple of days like doing drywall. So as you're doing the drywall, you're going to be constantly looking at the floor, looking at your and looking at your walls, and it's just a great reminder. So, but when you go to start to do your drywall, you're going to be like, hey, there's something missing here, or there should be a light here, or it's just an excellent to kind of get it in your head where everything should be.
Bang plate's basically a small sheet of metal that you can throw over any piece of wood where something delicate is going to be behind it, like a wire or plumbing or something. So we're going to throw bang plates on for our electrical wires, and you're only going to need a bang plate if you didn't drill your hole deep enough back. So like this one would be fine because a drywall screw isn't going to reach through 1/2 inch sheetrock and go through this. But this one's a little bit shallow, so I throw a bang plate on there just to make sure when we're screwing our sheetrock in that a drywall screw doesn't go through and pierce that wire. Usually you want it about halfway through, and the same thing applies for the outside. If this hole was drilled a little bit close to this side, we'd need to go slap a bang plate on that, because when we're using our nail gun and we're nailing our sheeting, and it can still pierce a wire. So we're putting our outlet boxes on right now, and a common mistake is pushing these little ridges all the way flush against your 2x4. That's what they're meant for, but we're using 1/2 inch drywall, so our box would be sunk in a little bit, and we need it flush with our drywall. So what we did is we cut a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, just a little scrap of it, and now we can hold it next to our stud and check and see if we're flush, which it looks like we are. So we're going to go around and repeat the process on all of our outlets. So when it comes to this wall that's going to house all our plumbing for our washer and dryer, we're actually not going to put a stud in the center like we originally planned, because for an interior wall, we need studs every 24 inches, and this is a little bigger than 24, so what they're having us do instead is sister a stud to the outside of the box right here, and this is going to close this distance to 24, so now we're not going to need any studs to screw our drywall into.
We're discussing on where to place the vanity light. So we're going to be using a 30-inch vanity top. So you're going to add a 1/2 inch for drywall. So half of the 30 is going to be 15 inches, which falls right about here. So up at our light, so your typical vanity is going to be 34. So you add two inches for the vanity top. So you're going to be at 36. So at 36, you got a 3-foot mirror. So we're going to put our light at 7 foot. So at 7 foot, you can still have a 6-inch globe hang down, and it's not going to hang in the mirror. So you always want your vanity lights to be above the mirror, because you don't want that light reflection in the mirror. So we're going to hang our our side nailer, our 4-0 side nailer, right to the side, and that lines up almost perfectly with what we're looking for. So we're going to be at 7 foot. You're going to have a 3-foot mirror and then a 3-foot vanity with about 1.5 inches in between each one of them. So that puts our light right there at 15.5. Center of our box is exactly what we're looking for our drain. That's going to be approximately about 15.5 with our sink drain and our faucet, so they all line up. So we're going to be hanging a fan box here, and this is what they call a new construction fan box. So this one's going to go from rafter to rafter, and once we get it secured down, it will hold, I believe they hold up to about 150 pounds. So they're pretty stout. Don't ever hang a fan with just a normal nail-on box because it can't handle the weight. So that's why these boxes are specifically designed for hanging fans. So in your little packet that you'll get when you open it up is you're going to have a machine screw and some wood screws. Your wood screws are going to go through the side and hold it to your TGIs, and then your machine screw are going to go through your box into your bracket. And we're just going to get these started in here. You don't want to tighten these down yet because you still have to adjust it back and forth. So we're just going to kind of mock this up and just get it prepped for hanging. So after you find your center of your room and find out where your box is going to be, we're going to kind of assemble this. Like I said, you don't tighten anything down yet. We're just going to get it all mocked up here. So he already found his center of his room and where we need to find the box. So it's got a little groove where you can just line it up with your marks. It's going to sit just like that. So once you find your measurements, you can pull off your back beam and figure out where this can go. That's why we don't tighten that down yet. So go ahead and get this tightened down, and you're going to use your wood screws here. So he's going to go ahead and tie it down to his TGIs, and once he gets it secured down, that's why we wear a hard hat. So go ahead and get that anchor down. And make sure those ears are flush with the TGIs, because if they stick down, it's going to cause your drywall to have a bow. There you go.
We're getting ready to put our box in for our smoke alarm, but there's no wires you need to run to it because the smoke alarms we're using are battery operated. So for smoke alarms, they need to be 9 inches down from the ceiling or 9 inches in from the wall. So we're going to come 9 inches in from this eye joist. So it'll be 9.5 to make up for our drywall. So we're going to put our box for our smoke alarm right here. We also have it marked down there, just SM with a circle, so we wouldn't forget that we had a smoke alarm straight above us. So in terms of what they did today and what we're looking for measurements to be exact. We're looking for plumb. We're looking for their electrical placement so that it's accurate, and just making sure they have blocking where it needs to be, and making sure that everything's just where it needs to be, just right. So they put in this wall over here. It extends the 2x4 wall to the double 2x4 wall, so we can put in venting and plumbing. And when I was out here earlier today, their top was narrowing in from the bottom, and so what they had figured out is they had made a mistake and measured the top plate wrong, so it wasn't square. And so they replaced that top plate, and now we got a nice square wall in there to bump out that utility closet. They also put in this wall here. This is our shower wall.
And the shower will be here. They put in the blocking down around here. We're looking for that blocking to be nice and level. Over here they put blocking for a towel rod. So we'll be able to put a towel rod right in here. They put blocking over here for our cabinetry and our plumbing. So they're just getting all those things ready. They put in a lot of their electrical boxes, and we learned about what heights those need to be at. They already know the outlet heights, they know the switch heights, but there's a bathroom. Now they're learning about vanity lights and what heights those need to be at. They went ahead and put in their lights. There's the fan support, so it's sturdy. It's not going to give way. It can hold a lot of weight. We have a light box over here going in. They're just getting everything prepped so they can get their electrical and plumbing. It looks really good. It looks clean. You want to make sure it's not a mess. And as you look at the blocking, come look at the blocking. You're looking for that blocking to be nice and level. And so as you look at it, it looks real good.
Nelson, overall assessment.
They did a really good job. They did a really good job today. They had some setbacks, but they fixed them, and it looks really good.